Unless you're playing with a team of 5, every game you queue up for is going to be a bit of a gamble. Most of the time, you'll at least get a balanced game, or maybe you'll be lucky enough to have a carry. But if you do end up at a disadvantage, don't tilt, because you can still win. What's going on, ProGuides fam? My name is Boggs, and today we're going over how to win with a bad team. Whether you've been matched up with some bots or just don't have enough raw firepower, we're here with some tips to help you squeak out a win. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So you've noticed your team hasn't been able to string rounds together and you're getting pretty mad. Whatever you do, do not tilt. A big part of winning with a bad team is having a good mentality. Part of what makes Counter-Strike an amazing game is how any game is winnable regardless of the scoreline. You can come back no matter how bad the half, even if you're down 15 rounds. Although the results may look bleak, there's absolutely no reason why you should tilt. Of course, tilting doesn't only take the form of getting angry at your team. You could also tilt and stop communicating entirely or start going for plays that give your enemy a free kill. If you catch yourself tilting, try to take a deep breath and reset your mentality. As long as there's still rounds to win, your focus should be on how to win those rounds instead of reasons you think you lost the previous ones. Yes, constant mistakes should be thought about and addressed, but if you start fighting about rounds that have already happened, you'll just end up taking crucial focus away from the round at hand and the subsequent rounds. If you're annoyed by a teammate's mistakes, try to remain positive while telling them how they could have supported you or the team better. If they messed up on an individual level, chances are they already know why, so there's no reason to give your input mid-round unless they ask for it. Ultimately, if you make sure not to tilt, both your mentality and your team's overall mentality will be better off, giving you a greater chance at winning. Before we head into our next point, it's time for the question of the day. What role do you like playing the most? Personally, I've been an in-game leader for most of my time playing CS. I always liked calling, whether it was in matchmaking or against real teams, and it always seemed to be the best way I could support my team. But what about you guys? Maybe you prefer going for picks as an opera or lurking around the map. I'd love to hear what roles you all prefer playing, so let us know down in the comments below. Anyways, let's get back to the video. With our first tip out of the way, we're going to assume that your team all wants to win just as bad as you do, but they just can't win individual gunfights. In this case, your best bet is to use utility to your advantage whenever possible. Whether you're organizing an entire site execute or simply throwing a good pop flash for your teammate, any amount of utility can even the playing field. On T's side, consider defaulting around the map while holding onto your utility before deciding where to go. To default, just spread out and hold any potential pushes by the enemy, making sure to hold onto enough utility for later. The idea of a default is to slowly try and gather information on the way your opponents are playing in order to make a more educated decision later in the round. If you were to execute right away, you'd essentially be forced to run through all of the CT's utility and perhaps even a stack. This only really works if your team is mechanically stronger than your opponents. Playing a default allows you to both have an easier time when you do execute in the end, and it also offers you the opportunity to find picks on your own before you execute. To effectively default, try to bait out a bit of utility from the enemy if you can by throwing a flash or shoulder peeking a few angles. Whether you've gotten a kill or not, tell your teammates to group up and take a site, using flashes and smokes wherever possible. If you play these rounds slow, group up for each site take, and use your utility while going in, it'll be really difficult for the enemy team to win simply by out-aiming you. Just make sure not to give up any free kills early on and you'll be alright. On CT's side, make sure to shut down any early rushes by the enemy team with Molotovs or HE grenades, and use flashes wherever you want to go for a peek. If you see a teammate going for some kind of aggressive peek, you can toss flash behind them for support. Just make sure to tell them you're throwing it so they're not caught off guard. When you're retaking, make sure to use all of your utility to clear out parts of the site and block off places the enemy could be holding. Good utility usage can not only make fights easier, but also guarantee kills depending on how you use it. Forcing your opponents to run through a smoke late into a round will make killing them a lot easier, and not even a pro can counter a good flash. Even if your teammates don't know how to use their utility, supporting them with your own will improve their chances with each fight. If your teammate is holding down the site you're both at with an op, throwing flashes on their shot will allow them to re-peek and go for more kills. Having good utility usage is an important skill to learn, but it's also one of the most difficult. If you're looking to improve your utility skills or just want help fixing mistakes you might not even know you're making, I suggest coming down to our website at ProGuides.com. There you can find some amazing coaches who are dedicated to making you a better player. Whether it's cleaning up your aim or sharpening your game sense, our coaches can help you with anything you need. You can still coordinate plays even if your utility usage needs some work. Simply pushing with 2 players on the CT side, for example, could ensure a kill or at least a trade. On Dust 2, you might double push tunnels for information or boost 2 players quickly onto Cat for early control. On Inferno as a CT, boosting a player above porch while playing under porch will make holding lane a lot easier than simply playing one arch in one lane. Having a teammate take any fight with you will improve your odds of winning, especially if the fight is just a 2-on-1. Going for gimmicky boosts can secure a free kill as well on maps like Overpass or Inferno. Plays that catch your enemy off guard are great for teams that may not be the best mechanically, since unpredictable behavior is impossible to counter. Take initiative with these kinds of plays if you see an opportunity. You can use your ping to tell a teammate where to boost you or ask a teammate to push with you if you think you can guarantee a kill. Coordination is key to winning with a bad team, since you can't just rely on luck to secure each round. If you can't seem to get your team to work together though, the next route is to make individual plays. Understanding individual plays comes from experience, but the goal here is to secure an early pick without dying. Some players prefer to pick up an op for such individual plays, while others will go for rifle kills. If you're on a map like Mirage, going for early picks at A ramp, top mid, or apartments are all safe bets, since you can back off easily and reposition yourself after each kill. You also don't need to rely on your teammates as much for flashes or other utility, since you should be able to kill any players that peek into you. If the enemy team is overly aggressive, grabbing an op and holding for overpeaks can net you a few opening kills, but make sure to not get too greedy and end up dying early on. If you want to get picks with a rifle, you've got a couple of options. One is to pick early with utility, whether it be your own or a teammate's. With a good spawn, a T-side rifler can easily catch players running across A-side on Mirage at the start of a round, assuming a teammate flashes as they peek. On Inferno, tossing a Molotov on car and having a teammate flash for you can get you a free kill on any CTs playing overly aggressive on Banana. Such early plays can work if you're confident in your aim, but will have pretty bad repercussions on your team's success if you end up dying without a kill. This brings us to the less dangerous option of lurking with a rifle, which can also net free kills. There's a lot to lurking, and you really don't want to end up being a baiter, but it can work if you understand how the enemy team is playing. A good lurker capitalizes on rotations by sneaking onto a site the enemy is rotating off of, or holding an aggressive spot quietly for free kills. On Mirage, a good lurk could take the form of walking out of Palace while your teammates take mid, or walking out of apartments where your teammates put a lot of pressure on A. You don't have to be silent as a lurker though. Throwing utilities sometimes while your teammates prepare to take the opposite site can make their take a lot easier and help you find a kill on your side of the map. Try not to lurk every round though, especially if your teammates aren't able to get kills on their own. Swinging onto a site with a teammate will almost always be a better play later in the round than just hiding in apartments. If you're down in numbers, just give up on the lurk and regroup with your team. With everything said so far about using teamwork and coordination to win, it's important to remember your constraints. If you're playing a pug with a completely random players or queued up with some lower level teammates, complex strats are probably going to just confuse them. At the end of the day, you'll only be playing with them for that hour, so try not to run a double fake or an intensive 5-smoke execute unless you're completely confident in their ability to throw the utility needed. If you're going to call a strat, keep it simple and concise, and try to throw the supporting utility yourself to leave little room for error. For a B-rush in Mirage, you might ask the first player to throw a Molotov van and the second player to smoke off any counter mollies. Everyone else can just throw flashes over and rush out onto the site. If you want to add a little utility, you can throw a market window smoke and some late flashes, but everything else will probably become too complicated to call in the 15 seconds you have before the round. While holding a site, it's good to have a setup in case the enemy team executes on you and your teammates, but don't spend more than a few seconds explaining it. Just tell your teammate to flash if something happens or decide who's going to take the first fight. Then make sure you have your gun out and focus on the round at hand. No matter how good of a team you're playing against, there's gotta be something that works against them. Perhaps they have too many ops or they play too aggressively. Try to figure out a counter and stick with what seems to work. If your team has had success just rushing with all 5, then don't be afraid to catch your opponent off guard with another rush. If they have a player pushing up every round, make sure to wait for someone to pick that player off before making your move, since it should be a free man advantage each round. If grabbing an op seems to be a great counter to their rushes, keep opping and consider picking up a second one. Whatever works, just stick with it. To close out our video, I just want to stress again that every game you play is winnable, whether you're down 12 rounds on the half or playing against a stack of pro players. If you can make good individual plays, coordinate with your teammates, and utilize your utility, you'll be able to chain rounds together regardless of the overall skill level. If nothing else is working, just grab an op or a rifle and go for some opening picks. Just make sure not to tilt, and you'll make it through the game just fine. If you want to learn how to carry your team, make sure to come by our website at ProGuides.com and talk to one of our coaches. They'll gladly help you fix your mistakes and teach you tips on just about everything you need to know in Counter-Strike Global Offensive. But anyway, that's all for today, so if you liked the video, make sure to hit that like button and ring the notification bell to stay up to date with every new video. Drop a comment with your favorite role, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace out.